G'day guys and gal, the Primarchs are living proof that just because you have over 200 IQ doesn't mean you aren't a total dumbass. They led their legions in the galaxy, conquered the stars, brought countless Xeno and human civilizations to heel, but they also managed to ruin everything because their genius IQ convinced them that betraying their creator and dooming humanity by allowing demons to sodomize their souls, and in some cases literally their asses, would be a good idea. So I thought it'd be a bit of a fun time to highlight some of the Primarchs' dumbest moments to show that just because you're a little genius demigod doesn't mean you aren't immune to being a fucking retard on occasion. Before we get started, we had an amazing response to the Natty Plus testosterone booster focus plug I did in my last video, so I thought today we'd focus on the ultimate liver support, explaining the science behind why this supplement is so fucking elite and how it can help you. Your liver is constantly processing toxins, whether environmental, from alcohol, from medications, or just your own body's inflammation. However, when it's overwhelmed, it begins to take damage, which can be measured by liver enzymes spilling into your blood, which are measured by your AST and ALT. Elevated AST and ALT means your liver is struggling to process toxins. Chronically elevated AST and ALT from, let's say, frequent alcohol consumption will eventually cause permanent liver damage and even failure. Now, I don't want to quit drinking because it's fun and I like tequila, so I created the ultimate liver support instead, using 4 key liver supporting supplements, all mixed into one package. Tudka helps move bile through the liver and protects liver cells from death when they're under stress. NAC helps your body make more glutathione, which is essential in liver detoxification. Like, they literally use NAC as the official hospital treatment when someone overdoses on paracetamol because it can stop liver failure. Milk thistle is a powerful antioxidant which protects liver cells and even encourages new liver cells to grow, not just protecting against damage but reversing it. Vitamin E reduces inflammation within the liver. All of those ingredients work synergistically to lower your liver enzyme levels. They can help reverse fatty liver disease, and it's just so insanely effective. Here is my blood work when I was in Europe, drinking nearly every day, barely sleeping, having fun, while I was also taking the ultimate liver support. When I got home, I did dry August, so no alcohol, and did not take the ultimate liver support. And when I checked again, my enzymes were actually higher, meaning my liver was healthier on a bender with this supplement than it was not drinking without it. It's not just drinking though. Medications like Accutane, a common anti-acne drug, are harsh on the liver. Chronic inflammation from disease is harsh on the liver. We even had a guy with bile malabsorption get noticeable improvements in symptoms. Use the link below or code Majorkill for 20% off store-wide. Today we'll go over the dumbest mistakes the Primarchs have made, highlighting the consequences of those mistakes and why they actually made them. Let's get into it. So it's important to realize that most of the time when a Primarch did something really stupid, it was because of their monstrous ego, which clouded their better judgment, and this is a theme we'll see a lot of in today's video. In Fulgrim's own Primarch book, he wanted to make a world compliant with minimal use of effort and soldiers to prove himself to the other Primarchs, mostly Leman, who made a joke about Fulgrim that he took extremely personally. Now, he could have just done a show of force, got the planet to surrender, and then installed imperial governors and moved on, but instead he had to do the most convoluted plot ever, which ended up just making him look like an asshole, getting a bunch of people killed, almost getting himself killed, and a planet that genuinely despised him and the Imperium. It was quite stupid, although it didn't really have any long-term consequences. Now, I do like the Lion, but the man has had his share of low IQ moments. One that would bite him in the ass would be the banishing of Luther back to Caliban. Exiling his second in command and telling him to train a new generation of Dark Angels was dumb as hell. Not only did this breed resentment in Luther, which eventually saw him fall to chaos and turn against the Imperium, but it also allowed Luther to train thousands of new Dark Angels loyal to him. The Lion didn't even try to wrap the Exile in false honor. He just fucked him off and never checked in. If instead he had sent Luther back for 10 years to do a mass recruitment, then upon hitting a target he could rejoin him, that would have resulted in the Dark Angel swelling in power, no division, and no loss of Caliban. After all, Luther was extremely good at what he did. I love the Line, but the man was pretty autistic. The consequences of this mistake was the loss of Caliban, the splitting of the Dark Angel Legion, and the Line getting knocked out of the setting for 10,000 years. Now for an infamous example, once again about the Lion, it was when he handed over massive siege guns to Perturabo during the Heresy, who was a traitor at the time. Now, why did he do this? Especially since those guns were then used to massacre loyalist forces later in the Heresy. Well, the Lion was blinded by his arrogance and failed to see the depths of the betrayal. He thought Horus had gotten uppity, that he would be crushed by the forces Rogel had sent, and then there would be a vacant spot for the new War Master. He gave Perty the siege guns as a bribe to get Perty's support when Horus was beaten, and to get voted in as the new War Master. He didn't stop to think, Horus is a legendary commander that would know that only having 4 legions isn't enough and that would amount to suicide. Maybe there's something else at play here. The Lion was never really a people person and struggled to connect with or understand the nature of others. Maybe because he grew up in a fucking forest full of demonic monsters, but it's anyone's guess. The consequences of this weren't too bad. Like, yeah, Perty fucked up some loyalists with the siege guns, but it wasn't like it was the decisive weapon that broke the walls of terror or anything. Angron is known for a few things, none of which has been particularly intelligent. A good example is during the Night of the Wolf, where the Space Wolves came to the World Eaters to censure them for how brutal they were. Angron openly insulted the Emperor, called Russ a furry, and the two sides engage battle, marking one of the first instances of mass Astarte versus Astarte combat. Now the World Eaters were killing more space wolves than they were losing, mostly because they were more into it, whilst the wolves weren't too stoked about attacking a brother legion. But also, to be fair, there isn't many things that can stop a World Eater force in melee combat. Angron and Russ duel, with Angron getting the upper hand, however then discovering he'd been baited into a kill zone by Russ. Russ wanted to teach Angron a lesson, that his overzealous berserker way was flawed, and now he was technically dead. 50 bolters were aimed at him at close range, not even a Primarch could survive that. Angron refused to yield or heed the lesson, so Russ could either kill him or retreat. He chose retreat. Angron would brag about that day as a victory for the World Eaters, but even Lorgar was like, dude, you got outplayed and only lived because Russ showed mercy. You're an idiot. And Angron is like, nah-uh. Now there wasn't actually a consequence to this, but even when it was spelled out to him, Angron couldn't see how dumb he actually was here. People have a lot of issues with Horus's fall to Chaos, but I want to highlight the dumbest moment of it. When Horus has been shown his visions by Chaos, Erebus was there but took the form of Sejanus, a dead lunar wolf who was also Horus's favourite son. When Magnus arrived in the vision, he peeled off Erebus' disguise to show his true form and then tried to throw fireballs at him, but he wasn't powerful enough. Horus completely ignored the fact that Erebus was lying his ass off with the disguise, taking the rest of the vision as gospel, and he even had the audacity to roast Magnus for using sorcery, midway through a sorceress vision. The consequence of this was Horus falling and ruining everything, so yeah, pretty dumb. There was a lot of dumb shit involved with Conrad. Let's just start listing them off. Conrad once stopped a woman from killing herself, but then he proceeded to kill her in a much more agonizing fashion because suicide was illegal. Conrad also once cornered a criminal and saw a vision that if he let him live, the person would grow to become a righteous man and a figure for good, having learnt his lesson. But Conrad was too much of a stupid arsehole, so he killed him anyway. When Conrad had Vulcan stuck in the maze designed by Perturabo, he allowed Vulcan to reach the center, where Vulcan's Warhammer was, and the two fought, Vulcan winning due to being the better fighter and escaping. If Conrad had continued to let Vulcan wander around aimlessly, periodically ambushing him, Vulcan's sanity would eventually shattered. But to be fair, it was also really stupid of Vulcan not to finish off Kurz after beating him, just like how it was stupid of the Lion not to finish off Kurz when he beat him. Kurz was an irredeemable sadistic asshole, just fucking kill him. To wrap it up, Conrad's suicide was also dumb as hell. He really thought he was doing something and making a statement. Dude just died unremarked. In a similar theme, Russ sparing Horus was dumb as shit during their duel. I mean, Russ attacking Horus was beyond fucking retarded to begin with. The wolves had gotten to Terra, Russ and his legion being there for the siege would have made a massive difference, but instead he struck out by himself, attacked Horus's fleet, lost most of his own fleet, lost most of his own legion, and didn't do any actual damage to Horus beyond a wound that he would eventually recover from. Now, Leman was told time and time again that Horus was too powerful for him. He knew it was basically a suicide run with a low chance of success. But the Mad Lad actually wounded Horus and had him at his mercy. After striking Horus with the Emperor's Spear, Horus was vulnerable, but Leman hesitated, tried to redeem Horus, and then got clapped as Horus recovered. So dude did something stupid, got lucky, and the chance to change everything, and then he did something stupid, the consequence of which was no Space Wolf Legion on Terra, and the Emperor getting clapped by Horus. Fulgrim's fall to Chaos was especially stupid. Dude picks up a sacred alien sword in an alien temple, which was already a pretty anti-imperial policy to begin with. Then he starts hearing voices in his head, convinces himself it's just his subconscious, and then becomes a literal fucking rapist. The consequences of which, beyond just ending up on a registry, was him turning into a big slutty snake demon and killing Ferris, his favourite brother. Many stupid Primarch moments are born from Primarchs entering into Primarch duels that they are incredibly unprepared for and can only end one way. Lorgar vs Corvus, Lorgar vs Corvus again, Dawn vs Alfarius, Guilliman vs literally anyone other than Lorgar, Sanguinius vs Horus. These were cases of a Primarch choosing to engage in a fight with one of their brothers who they knew were going to kill their asses, yet pride demanded they do it anyway. In most cases, they were forewarned not to engage in the duel. Lorgar was literally told that if he tried to fight Corvus, he would die. All of Guilliman's warriors begged him not to fight Fulgrim. Sanguinius just dead set foresaw his own death. Sure, you could say it was brave, I think it's overall pretty stupid. Primarchs can heal from any wound that isn't fatal, so if two Primarchs fight, one dies, it doesn't matter how much damage they did or how good of a showing they put on before they died, the surviving Primarch will heal like nothing had happened. There are other stupid moments, like Mortarion joining the traitors despite hating the warp, Jagged-Eye chasing Dark Elder into the webway, Leman going into the Eye of Terror, Perturabo thinking the Emperor would be mad at him for raising Olympia, Ferris charging his legion into a 4v1 during the Dropsite Massacre, Rogel suiciding most of his legion during the Iron Cage, but we've covered all the important ones. Honestly, most of the galaxy's issues can be traced back to the Primarchs making stupid fucking decisions, which in itself is quite hilarious. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then pick up the Natty Plus Ultimate Liver Support. Use link below or code Majorkill20 for 20% off. Hit the subscribe button, hit the real subscribe button for more stupid content. Join the Discord for more memes that I'll see you in the next one. Peace.